Deepak, Aman, and Ateep, over to you guys.
Do you really think that I'm not only talking about the current establishment, but any of the parties which are there in India today have learned from history as well or not? Because a lot of phrases such as oppression of minorities, tweaking of law and order in accordance to the will of the more powerful, bulldozing dissent, something as simple as having names of leaders plastered everywhere. These were things which were negative aspects about history that we read. And these things are yet being heard in different places at different timelines as well. So, do you really think that this united front, which you're talking about, is really possible with the current political environment in India?
Current, obviously not. This is a poisoned atmosphere. But there are some fundamentals you can argue if the other side wants to argue, or you impose it if they don't want to argue it, and the public gives you the mandate for it. And that is our DNA is the same. That means, and that is, the Journal of Genetics of the University of Cambridge or the University of Houston or Mysore University. They all have done studies and they said, yes, Indians are of one genetic, by the DNA as it's called. Now, but we have been taught by books written by historians and their tutors and their tutees, so to speak, for Indians, that we are originally were a Dravidian country, and then the Aryans came from Khyber Pass and butchered them and drove them to the south. And so we are Aryans and Dravidians. Now that there is no support for this whatsoever in any of our historical facts or scientific facts and so on. So consequently, we have to correct that history, and not by just saying by a fatwa or by an ordinance or something, but by arguing this matter in the beginning. I'm ready to debate with anybody. I only went once to the JNU to argue this, and they lost so badly they never invited me again. The question basically is this: that at no stage the Indians, when the chips are down, have not united. And this is what Deng Xiaoping said. He said, I asked them about 1962 that you came down the mountains, you had the Tezpur near your hand, and then suddenly you decided to return. What made you do that? So he said, well, we never thought that the Indians would rise unitedly in the way they did. You are all too young to know, but I know that women used to take their gold bangles, their Mangal Sutra, and put it in a basket which was circulated in a public meeting, so that they could buy aeroplanes, they could buy helicopters. People used to shout, how much does a helicopter cost? And somebody would say that. I mean, this is something you have to witness. It has happened in 1971, it's happened in 65. The latent nationalism and oneness comes up when we are in crisis.
Ateep.
Yeah, so the idea of India is that India believes in unity, sovereignty, and secularism. So my question is, when all the parts of country have the same law, then why do the Kashmiri people have PSA and AFSPA? So why
Kashmiri people have what?
AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act and Public Safety Act. If the government abrogated Article 370 and tried to fill in the gap that is between the center and the Kashmiri people, then why are there these acts still now?
Well, we did it with Tamil Nadu also once.
Then why haven't
they wanted separation? They wanted to separate.
The government really wants to.
I myself was a minister at that time. I dismissed the DMK government. People said rivers of blood will flow. This will happen. That will happen. Nothing happened.
Then
and when the elections were held, out of 234 seats, DMK got only 2 seats.
Why are 16-year-olds being slapped by the PSA, by this draconian law?
No, the draconian law can be modified and all those I can have a debate with. But nobody debates with me. Farooq Abdullah is an extremely good friend, but when he meets me, he says, oh, come on now, don't talk about all that. There's no legal way you can be separate, because the instrument of accession is common to all the 500 kingdoms that merged with India.
No one said. Talking about the PSA and AFSPA, that if the government
talking about?
So he's talking about
Yes.
AFSPA. He's saying that AFSPA and PSA, these two acts. Correct.
Well, those are not introduced by us, by the way. We have just continued it. But it's
They can be revoked. Article 370 has been revoked to integrate Kashmir with India. So these two
no,
acts.
I agree with you. It should be integrated, and it can be integrated.
It will go one by one. It will go step by step. It took 74 years. It took 40 years rather than 4 to take away a 370. And a collective will of the parliament had to come into the place when there was a majority, despite a decision taken in 1964. So this is just about 2 years, of which 18 months has been COVID-19. So have some patience. Even that will go. It is for the first time in 74 years that in 23,000 schools in Jammu and Kashmir, the national anthem has been sung and the national flag has been unfurled. So you should have turned around and said, for the first 20 years of your life, why was this not being done? So when that question is asked, you ask that question first and not about PSA and AFSPA, then automatically AFSPA and PSA will also go. That's all I'll have to say. We've got limited time, so let me get in Deepak Narayan so that we don't have a spillover. Yes, Deepak, go ahead.
We have put AFSPA.
Ask the right questions too. So that's what I'll say, Atif. Yes, Deepak.
Yeah, okay.
Sir.
Namaskaram, sir. My question to you comes from a rather confused space, to be very honest, where I, as a 19-year-old, consider my social media platforms like Instagram or Twitter, irrespective of the very, very little following I have, to be sort of my voice, my platform. It enables me and empowers me to put out my views into the world. But when I see the current establishment sort of going beyond their duty to ensure national and citizen security, which I agree is their duty on these virtual platforms. But when I see them going beyond into moral policing or censoring people for just sharing their views on a public platform, it concerns me as to whether whether my voice is valid as I grow up into becoming a fully functioning member of Indian society. So I want to ask you if the current establishment considers the virtual space something where the right to freedom and speech and expression is valid, and if they don't, I want to know why.
Oh, first of all, I'm considered a rebel in BJP. You know that. I'm the only one who's criticizing the Prime Minister on all the policies. I say he has failed in the economy. He has failed in national security. All this I'm to you. I don't know whether you follow me at all. Otherwise, you just follow me and see how much critical I am. And second, I fought the emergency the way nobody else fought. And that time, the same thing happened much worse terms, but that, that's a difference of degree. So for me, I do feel pained, and I do challenge the government in court also. I am waiting to challenge the government on what they did on that podcast or whatever the Israelis did for us. Pegasus. And I'm just waiting for the Israelis to confirm that Mr. X and Mr. Y signed the agreement. And then I'll go. Otherwise, I can't go on a fishing expedition. So I think, you see, dissent is something that should be respected. In before World War II began, Hitler was in the rise. And Britain was headed by a prime minister called Chamberlain, who believed that we should have accommodation with him. And, so he went on yielding, okay, you want Czechoslovakia, take Czechoslovakia. Like that, he allowed Hitler to whet his appetite. There was one man he was in the cabinet, but he was considered a rebel, and that is Churchill. He went on hammering. Nobody said you're disloyal to Chamberlain, you're a rebel. Look at the kind of things that come out from Modi Bhaktas in my Twitter, saying that you are about to go to Congress, you are like Yashwant Sinha, you are like Jethmalani, all kinds of abuses. And I have not said a word personally against Modi. I've just said he does know economics. He said one day that in 5 years, I will double the GDP to $5 trillion. And I sent him the calculation to show it will mean 14.8% per year. When I said, when you are not even getting 4% in the country, how can you make it 14.8%? Please tell me.